In a small provincial town there was a legend about an abandoned psychiatric clinic. It was said that unimaginable horrors and secret experiments on patients took place in this gloomy building. One day a group of curious teenagers decided to check the veracity of these rumors. Armed with flashlights and cameras, they boldly entered the abandoned building. The subdued atmosphere and mysterious silence made the hearts beat faster. As they passed through the dark corridors, they heard rustles and indistinct voices that faded into the shadows. One by one, the lamps disappeared, and they were plunged into absolute darkness. But they continued their dangerous journey, unaware that their fate had already been sealed. Continuing their dangerous journey through an abandoned clinic, the teenagers stumbled upon a room filled with dust and cobwebs. Inside, they found old medical instruments and tattered documents attesting to the terrible practices used on patients. Their hearts froze in horror when they saw the calloused patient sitting in the corner of the room. He was chained up and made strange noises, similar to whispers and wheezes. The look of his crazy eyes seemed to penetrate into the very soul of teenagers, enveloping them in unbearable fear. The teenagers, stunned by the terrible sight, could hardly contain their screams of horror. They knew they had to leave this gloomy room as quickly as possible, but their legs seemed bound with heavy chains, and fear paralyzed every movement. In their minds, they had questions about what was happening in this clinic and who was this unfortunate patient. Deciding that the time to explore the closed room was coming to an end, they hardly tore their eyes away from the patient and tried to find a way out. The cold air permeated their skin, creating a feeling as if they were being enveloped by an invisible darkness. Entangled in the maze of corridors, they became increasingly disoriented, as if the walls were changing their shape before their eyes. Finally, the teenagers found a door that attracted their attention with light coming through the crack. The hope of salvation revived their hearts, and they instantly went into a stampede mode. Flying through the threshold, they found themselves in a new part of the clinic, which turned out to be even more sinister and gloomy. Indistinct rustling sounds began to sound around them, as if an unknown entity was watching their every step. The walls made indistinct sounds, as if the building itself was a living being, ready to swallow them whole. But they couldn't stop. They were chasing their last thread of hope for salvation. In their desperation, they burst into one of the wards, where there were beds wrapped in torn sheets. But when they decided to turn to the wards, they found that the beds were filled with human bodies, and the bodies were distorted and mutilated. The eerie smell of death and decay filled the air, causing the teenagers to suffocate from the disgusting stench. They felt that something invisible was lurking behind them, something whose presence squeezed their hearts and paralyzed their souls. Suddenly, one of the teenagers was seized with bile, and he broke out, rushing away from this gloomy place. The others tried to follow him, but they encountered an irresistible force that threw them back. Surrounded by walls of despair and madness, they became victims of their own fear. The walls began to shrink, pressing them to themselves like the jagged jaws of a monster. There is no power that could save them from this deadly trap. Their cries and pleas for mercy were lost in this gloomy place, remaining unanswered. The abandoned clinic swallowed them up without a trace, erasing their existence from the memory of the world. In the darkness of an abandoned psychiatric clinic, teenagers disappeared without a trace. Their names and fates remained a mystery. Their existence became only a frightening legend passed from mouth to mouth. But over time, the abandoned clinic became a magnet for those who were looking for adventures and eager to uncover its dark secrets. New groups of inquisitive and brave researchers set out in search of the truth about the past of this sinister place. Some claimed that they heard whispers and screams in the night, the ghosts of patients who still wander the corridors of the clinic. Others told of strange glowing figures that disappeared in the blink of an eye. Many claimed that they saw signs of secret experiments that were carried out on patients, and persistently tried to find evidence to expose what was happening. But no researcher has been able to fully uncover all the horrors and secrets of the abandoned clinic. With each step deeper into the dark corridors, the walls changed, directing them into a maze of timelessness and madness. They faced distorted ghosts, visions of their own fears. Their reason tested the limits of its strength. The clinic absorbed their minds and souls, absorbing them into itself, as if a black hole was devouring light. Someone spoke about the curse lying on this place, about the power of evil, which retains its influence on everything past and future. Years later, the abandoned psychiatric clinic became a restricted area, officially closed to the public. It became an impregnable territory, on which there was a ban on entry. But the secrets and horrors lurking inside remained alive in the memory of those who boldly penetrated inside. Even now, far from the eyes of the townsfolk, the abandoned clinic continues to exist, keeping dark secrets. Whispers and ominous sounds are heard in the night, and those who dare to enter her land face inhuman forces eager to avenge their lost lives. If you liked this story and want to receive more fascinating content, subscribe to our channel or page to keep up to date with new publications and receive notifications about our horror stories.